Welcome to the Movie Business Podcast, picking up where Movie Business Book left off. I'm Jason Squire, hosting a wide range of industry talent and executives to answer fundamental questions about the business today. Here we go. And to delve into the secrets of co-productions, we join Andre Morgan, a globe-trotting film and television producer. Fluent in Mandarin, Andre was CEO of Golden Harvest in Hong Kong, working with Raymond Chow to expand it into one of the largest film businesses in Asia, launching the international careers of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, director John Woo, and others. Later, Andre partnered with Godfather producer Albert S. Ruddy to produce over 40 movies and 400 television hours, including Best Picture Oscar Million Dollar Baby, Cannonball Run, Martial Law, and Walker, Texas Ranger. Welcome, Andre.
Thank you, Jason. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm glad to be able to chat with you on the podcast. So let's dive right in. What are the secrets of co-production?
Picking the right partners, obviously. But no, in a serious vein, I think the answer goes in two directions. If you have the luxury of being able to choose your partner, as opposed to being handed to you as a condition as a producer for getting your project made, you want to be sure that your interests and the interests of your co-producing partner are aligned, i.e. you're expecting the same results for the project, whether it's in the kind of film you're making or the budget level of the film, and most importantly, the tone and style of the film. And the same applies to a television series. Now, the truth is the heyday of large budget international co-productions has sort of gone by the wayside. And I guess we're seeing post-COVID a small resurgence. If the past two Cannes and the past two Torontos are to be believed, for those still standing by way of independent distribution companies or theater chains around the world that need films, there has been a small resurgence in co-production or productions financed by either soft funds from overseas, designating the project a co-production, or pre-sales to different territories. Beyond that, let's face it, in this era in which most of the production work is being financed by Apple and Amazon and Netflix, co-productions have taken on a different tone. It's about where can you move a production out of the United States and qualify to pick up the soft funds made available by local governments, be they national governments or regional governments, by simply declaring yourself a co-production, hiring the minimal number of staff and cast that have been set down by the laws in the host country. That's from an American perspective. I think that probably if somebody did a study, they would find that a good 80 to 85% of the money going into co-productions is money actually being recycled back to the studios, plus Netflix, Amazon, Apple, and a couple of major players in other parts of the world. The old days of putting together independent movies has significantly been reduced, and now it's down to smaller horror movies or small action movies that can be financed out of a few pre-sales in Europe or a co-production or a few pre-sales in Asia and calling it a co-production. The bulk of the money is being vacuumed up by Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Warner's, Universal. And it has been that way for the last 15 years.
So it's very important to study the co-production requirements, the government requirements for subsidies and tax incentives in local markets, and that will govern much of the budget and where the picture is being shot. I wanted to ask about the steps taken for a European co-production, and especially how they compare for a Chinese co-production.
Well, that's a pretty broad question.
I know.
I think, you know what I'm saying? I think we need to narrow it down a bit and say, let's talk about co-productions that are going to be produced in the English language. I can come back and talk about China some other time. But if you're looking at European co-productions, they seem to be going in three directions right now. The co-productions that I touched on earlier being declared co-productions because a production bases in the UK and qualifies, or bases in Ireland and qualifies, or bases inside in France, Germany, or Spain inside the EU to get the local subsidies and the EU subsidies. And that boils down to ticking boxes. In order to qualify, it's not just about where you domicile a production. It's how many local talent and in specific categories. Mm-hmm. So clarifying that and figuring out if that allocation between above the line talent and below the line allows it to qualify as a co-production seems to be the key defining bottom line part for European co-productions that want to engage with the American market. Within Europe, within France, Germany, and Spain, there's quite a bit, but they're lower budget productions being done as co-productions, being shot in French or being shot in German or in Spanish. Some of those see the light of day here in America thanks to a buy-in by Amazon or by Netflix, or on the occasional buy-in, if you will, by Neon or A24 for a smaller movie to be released in America. That's your classic co-production today. That's not the way it used to be. It used to be you put together 3 or 4 theatrical distribution companies, probably theater owners in Europe, and they each would commit to contribute a portion of the budget. But that's before Europe actually learned about soft funds and needing to compete with soft funding available from Australia and Canada. The situation in Asia is very different. The situation in Asia, they seldom are looking to the North American market. And so if you're doing a co-production with China, you're trying to make sure that the project is going to tick the boxes for the China co-production. If you're trying to do a non-China co-production, which basically means you're doing something with Korea, Japan, and Southeast Asia, then it's really about who's keeping what rights, mm-hmm. and how are they going to recoup their investment, and is there anything left over for cross-collateralization of unrecouped investment by the other parties in the co-production. So you're starting to see a few years ago, we did a few Hong Kong, Korean co-productions and a few Hong Kong, Thailand, Korea co-productions. But that's kind of died down again because, again, shifting market forces, as theater audiences have dwindled and the SVODs or the streamers have become the primary source of production financing as DVD sales have declined. They've really become the kingmakers. You need a deal, whether it's a deal with Netflix in Asia or a deal with HBO or a deal with CBS was trying to do some stuff internationally to see what happens in the new incarnation of Paramount. Mm-hmm. If you didn't have those anchor pieces, then you were doing local language stuff, and the budgets were very, very limited.
Now, for all of these co-production creations, do all the deals have to be approved by the government?
No. I mean, the truth is in different countries, they have different rules. Mm-hmm. If you're not looking to get government subsidies or government rebates or government soft money by whatever mechanism, most countries you're pretty free to enter into a joint venture to make a movie as a co-production. But if you're only doing it to get government money, then obviously the government has to approve, at least in principle, the structure of the deal and what elements will be local nationality versus what elements will be non-local nationality. There are a few exceptions. I mean, you want to make a movie as a co-production officially with China, they have 3 categories. In all 3 cases, they have to approve the material and they have to approve the cast and the director.
Mm. Now, in your remarkable career, Andre, what are some of the lessons that you've learned?
I'm not sure it was a remarkable career. and the lessons are nothing lasts forever, and be careful about who you get in business with. Mm-hmm. The thing that I've learned over the years, and it sort of touched on something you and I talked about once before, sometimes the best deals are the deals you don't make. And by that, I mean young filmmakers, be they directors, writers, producers that are trying to put projects together, are usually very desperate to get the money. So they don't necessarily listen carefully to what their partners are, A, hoping to achieve with the project, and B, what controls the partners or the investors intend to exert over the project. And finally, what rights are being swallowed up by those financiers and what rights are left, what creatively is left with the team that actually put the project together. The road to Hollywood or the road to international filmmaking is strewn with projects that started out with the best of intentions and either collapsed out of internal fighting and bickering, or one party failed to complete their financing and everybody was left high and dry looking to find a replacement for that money. And that's why I say the most important thing is you've really got to understand who you're getting in business with, what their source of financing is, and why they're doing the deal with you. Why do they want to be a co-financier? And if you find that you can live with those things, then go for it. But a lot of times you'll find there's all sorts of convoluted hidden agendas that kind of limit the chances of success. And the problem is, once you've made your project, there's no making it a second time. You know, you lose control of the project, you lose control of the material, or there's a lien on the project, or it's half done and it's turned out to be awful. Sidestepping those things, that's the scar tissue that separates young from old producers and directors. And I hate to put it this way, but you kind of sink or swim on how successful you are at navigating those kind of rapids.
Well, it does sound like not only convoluted, but also a very stressful lifestyle. And in fact, you're sort of talking around the fact that you might have been stranded on a deal every now and then. Is that true?
Oh, sure. I can tell you in my crisscrossing career, at least on 4 occasions, we were either a week into shooting or a week away from shooting where the financing collapsed because a partner pulled out or turned out they didn't really have the money. In one case, I don't even want to go into it, but in one case, the partner that was financing this was arrested and put in isolation. So we couldn't even find out if they had the money or how to get our hands on it. So I had to scurry around to bridge that. When I say scurry around to bridge it, we were bridging, at the time, we were bridging $6 million US. And we literally found out the gentleman in question had been arrested 3 hours after he was arrested. That's why I say you've got to really understand the players. And a couple of times, just the course of planning on doing a project, and you make all of your plans predicated on the local financing that will supplement what you're bringing in, and then something happens. I had a situation where I was doing a project in Mexico, and literally, this is a few years ago, the peso devalued by 30% the week before we started shooting.
Yikes.
And we were paying most everything in dollars. And our Mexican partner was supposed to be making his contribution in dollars. Well, obviously, he said, but I'm short. Let's put it this way. Being an independent producer is not for the faint of heart. But if you've got a positive attitude and you can stay calm about things, usually you'll find a solution.
Wow.
If you pick the right team, you've got the right director and the right cast, it should be a sexy enough or an appealing enough project that you'll have other people that will step in and pick up the slack. My rule of thumb, and I give this to you, and I'm not joking, for producers and directors, listen to the marketplace. It's the biggest lesson I've learned in my career, and I learned it early on, fortunately. You can put together what you think I think is a great package. I got the director I want, the script I want, and the actors I want. Wow, it should be great. You go to market, and by going to market, I mean either to sell it to distributors or to today's streamers or the SVODs, and nobody's excited. Well, you better stop and ask yourself, what am I missing? The market is seldom wrong. If they're not excited, either I've got the wrong cast, the wrong material, or my pricing is wrong. And if you stop and you pause, I don't mean the first rejection you get, but you've now gone down the list of potentials and nobody has stepped up, or you're still short 30% of the cost of the film. You've got to ask yourself, what am I not seeing? And if you do, I think that, at least my luck has been that you'll fix the problem, and in solving it, you should at least be able to look your investors in the eye and say, well, I'll get you back your investment. I can't guarantee it's going to be a home run, but you've got to listen to the marketplace. And that marketplace is the investor and the end user, the buyers.
Well, this is all such good advice, Andre. Thank you. Can we turn to the issue with these complex co-production deals in place, the question of getting paid by these distributors who are co-financing?
Yeah, well, again, it depends on how you structure the deal. You know, I go back to my first statement. You better understand who your partner is, what their financial resources are, and why they're doing it. Then secondly, the flow of revenues, the flow of money into the account that is going to be used to fund the projects through completion? And then what are the revenue streams that are going to be used to recapture the investment, both for yourself and for your partners? Now, in today's world, the good news and the bad news is it's no longer just about projectable revenues, because the truth is most of the governments in the world have soft funds available, and they don't expect to recoup them. They don't expect to recoup those funds. So if you're getting soft funds of 25 or 30%, and your partner is coming in for another 20%, and you've got the balance, you're looking at both the markets that you've got unsold, or whatever the pre-sale guarantees are, or what your expectation is, realistic expectation. And those waterfalls, how will they be divided up? And that has to be documented. And it has to be that the funds are flowing in somewhere, either on a pre-allocated basis, or it's going into a general account that is administered by a neutral third party acting as a fiduciary.
You know, that turns us to the collection agencies that actually do that job. Is that right?
Sure, that's true. I find that the truth is you need them more in Europe than you do in Asia, because the number of investor groups in Asia is very limited. And the revenue streams are there's very few revenue streams, so it's pretty easy. But yeah, collection agents, I've used them on a number of occasions. To be honest with you, I've gone past the era of being excited about doing co-productions. And I personally prefer to find one investor group to work with, or at most two, whether it's an industry player that has an uptake need, that has a need of product, or it's a company that has similar interest to mine, and that we can agree how to work together, so that you're not chasing 15 people in 15 different countries and having to worry about the socioeconomic condition in each country. Because the truth at the end of the day is, and nothing against the collection agents, what are they going to do? Sue you? Sue for you? Oh, they can send out the letter saying, please remit the funds, and they can put you on, you can put the recalcitrant non-remitter on a blacklist, on a short list of we won't take their guarantees anymore. But beyond that, there's very little recourse.
Wow. And finally, can I ask about a blue sky prognosis for the business? Where do you think, where is everything?
A blue sky
well,
or a dark sky? What are you looking for?
Well, I'm always looking for the blue sky, but what are your thoughts on the subject?
My thoughts remain quite positive. And I guess I'm a contrarian here in Hollywood. I don't believe the world is ended with the SVODs providing the bulk of the financing right now. I think that we're in the middle of the single largest reorganization of the industry,
right,
and the restructuring of the industry that I've seen since 1969 through 74.
That's a good way of putting it.
And I think we have to accept that technology and economic forces are in play, and it will change. It has changed already, the way we consume entertainment, the way we judge entertainment, and certainly the way we finance that entertainment. But at the bottom line, if you step back from it and you look and you say, what is media about? What is film entertainment about? What is television about? It's all about how do you monetize people's leisure time. In the case of film serves another purpose. And I still believe this to be the case today. It used to be one of my opening statements when I gave lectures at universities for producers class. Film is a communal experience. People go to cinemas to have a shared experience, not just with the person that went with them, but with everybody in that hall. It's a reaffirmation that you are part of something bigger, whether it's the audience that's laughing at a comedy or sitting on the edge of their seats wondering if Brad Pitt's going to make it through the next turn on F1. But you're part of a group activity. It's just like going to a sporting event, right?
Right.
And those communal events reinforce our sense of community, of family, of society, and ultimately of a nation. I don't believe that's going to go away unless we cease to provide entertainment that is truly entertaining, or we price ourselves out of the average man's market.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I think there is a future. I think the multiplex theater chains have got to reorganize their business plan, and I think that they are a function of how you reorganize shopping malls in the Western world and in bigger parts of Asia. But once that economic restructuring goes through, there's still going to be a need for communal meeting places in which cinema films, be they big extravaganzas like another Jurassic Park, or smaller offerings, be it art house or specialty films, because people like to go out, they like to have fun, and they like to share experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It's beholden on all of us to make sure that the entertainment really entertains.
Wow.
And secondly, it entertains in a way that speaks to your audience, and it's no longer one shoe fits all.
Right.
You know, young people post-puberty during COVID are truly the first generation that have grown up consuming the bulk of their entertainment on a cell phone.
Right.
Consuming it, but also it sets their standard on pacing, on storytelling, and on what's fresh and new for them, right? The generation before got a lot of their entertainment on television and cable, but they also got a lot looking at DVDs, right? And you just go back generation by generation. The problem I think Hollywood has, to a lesser extent in Europe, we have an archaic structure that is, and decision-making process that is not responsive to the marketplace. And we have been in denial for the last 10 years that these changes were inevitable. The bigger the cell phone gets, the more data it can process, clarity of color, the quality of sound. Why would people not start streaming stuff on the phones? Mm-hmm. It's a fresh marketplace. The truth is, old Hollywood is not geared to deal with that, both in terms of creating the content or even understanding the kind of content that will be consumed. And I watch this not just here in the States, but as you know, I've got continuing interest in Asia, in China and Hong Kong and Singapore. I watch the consumption of content in Asia, and in some respects, China, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Korea are leading the way, far more so than America and Europe, in how to create content that is relevant to consumers in their cell phones. I used to make the analogy a few years ago that if you look at the evolution of cinema, it came from two things. It came from live theater, and it came from vaudeville and burlesque. And the whole idea was creating cheap content that would take mass consumption, right? And just as ultimately live theater was priced out by the cheapness of black and white movies and then color movies. And then movies got priced out by the ubiquity of color television programming, which then got supplanted by cable. We're living through the next generation where films as we knew them become, for this generation, what live theater was years ago.
Wow. This has been a terrific summary of where things stand globally in our business today. And it's been a pleasure, I think a really good place to conclude our time together, but it's been a pleasure hosting you. Andre Morgan, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thanks, Andre.
You're most welcome, Jason. Have a good day.